Hello, Louisville. Guess who's coming to dinner? Happy Friday, everyone. And guess who's coming to dinner? Today, our guest is going to be Miss Nubia Bennett. And she is an administrator over diversity and inclusion at the University of Louisville. She'll give you her correct title when she comes on. But we're going to end out this weekend with another vibrant young lady. You know, I've had the older generation on talking about different things from the environment to housing to access to money. And I've had some of the council women on talking about what's going on in District 1, District 3, and District 4. But this evening, I'd like to introduce you to Miss Nubia Bennett. Hey, Miss Nubia.
Hey.
How are you?
How are you? I'm well. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, when I saw this link, and then I want you to tell the audience just who Miss Nubia Bennett is.
Well, I don't know exactly where you want me to start, but I'm born and raised. I'm a Louisville girl through and through. Went to graduated from Manual High School. Go Rams, I guess. Graduated from U of L twice. So I've been around U of L probably, well, at least since they had Pizza Hut. Most people don't remember U of L having Pizza Hut. Currently in a radio station, Pizza Hut and a radio station in the SAC when it was originally over there by Floyd before there was a McDonald's.
Okay.
So, but my current role at U of L though is actually I am the program coordinator for diversity, education, and inclusive excellence. So we're the folks that go around teaching folks about implicit bias, anti-racism, students, faculty, staff, anybody who wants to hear anything. We manage all the book discussions and critical conversations. A lot of those really hard conversations that people are trying to have, in these kinds of spaces. So, yeah.
Okay. So we're going to have one of those hard conversations tonight, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always ready for those hard conversations. So I come in with a smile.
So tell me about this. I thought it was a book, but it's not a book. It's a conversation. A book discussion. Okay.
Yes.
And it's going on for 6 months?
Well, to be clear, we're not going to be reading a book for 6 months. That's the first thing. Actually, and I will make sure I get you the flyer and the link to join and everything, at least before the end of this show, because I don't want to interrupt the show. But basically, so we're going to be reading Dr. Ibram X. Kendi's book, How to Be Anti-Racist, and that was actually something that Dr. Neeli Vendaputti, the president of the university, really, really is interested in alignment with her anti-racism. She wants to be a premier anti-racist institution in a metropolitan city, right? So the first thing we have to do, obviously, is be able to have conversation and shared definitions around what is anti-racism, because, we can talk about it, but everybody has different, definitions of what that actually means, right? So to start, we are having a book discussion, and it's 6 months on purpose, not because it takes 6 months to read a book. I can read a book in a week. I read it in a week. But the end, we want to have something substantive at the end, and we really want the folks that are involved in at least the cohort portion of the book discussion to really be able to dig deep and not only just talk about, because we don't believe in one book scholarship. We don't want people to read one book and say, oh, I know everything about anti-racism now. Like, I know all the things, right? We really want people to really dig deep and really be able to have really deep, substantive conversation. And then after we're done reading the book together and have a shared definition, what does it mean to be anti-racist based on the book and based on other things, right? The book is really just a framework to bring in everything, your experience, your your experience, other literature, any and everything, the news. I mean, we are rich with materials to discuss about anti-racism,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And then after we've read it and talked through it, we really want to, people are going to be representing lots of different organizations, lots of different companies, lots of different just programs, whatever, yourself. Everybody involved is really going to get it, really their hands in the process of creating anti-racism plans. For community, I mean, being Black on some levels is anti-racist, right? Because you're not white. So there's that. But whoever's involved, it's open to everybody, students, faculty, staff, community, to really talk more about what does it mean to be anti-racist and living in a racist country, a country built on racism. What does that mean to create plans?
And how do you become anti-racist?
Okay.
Okay.
That's what we're working on. That's why it takes 6 months, because it takes longer than a week to really dig deep in what anti-racism really means in practice.
So how did you go in this direction? How did you get this position? What did you major in? Did your major have something to do with it, or?
Well, it's so funny because I always tell people, like, I'm 35. I have no problem with telling people age. Like, listen, every year I'm like, I'm this age. I'm excited, right? Every year.
So you're a millennial.
Yes. Every year I'm excited to be the next age. I think we're going to get older, we get better. Okay. So I just tell people, but so I actually, when people ask me what my end goal is and what I want to be when I grow up, I tell them, I still don't know that, but I know what I'm good at, right? And one of the things that I realized in college and especially in grad school that I'm really good at is consuming a lot of information. I read every day. Like I have a practice of reading every day.
Wonderful.
Like multiple books, so like I have to like break it up so I know that I'm reading on point, especially because part of my job is reading too. And I'm going back to grad school again, so lots of reading. But yeah, that's why I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Millennial problems, right? But I thought like I'm really big on understanding what I'm good at. I consume a lot of information, but I try to be really good at being able to give people what they need when they need it. Like, you don't need all the information that I've consumed. You just need the parts that are relevant to you. So I've kind of fallen into this space really. Prior to doing this diversity work at U of L, I was at the mayor's office doing violence prevention work with young people. So I used to manage a youth advisory council to Mayor Fisher when we really actually liked Mayor Fisher. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that.
Say what you yes, baby.
Okay, I didn't know if we were allowed to say that.
This is what you did.
But
this is a very safe zone for you to express your feelings. I'm not dictating your conversation. And whatever you want to say or you feel comfortable with, this is your time, honey.
So before, when we were so prior to coming to U of L, I used to manage a youth advisory council to Mayor Fisher who focused on youth violence prevention. So I used to also manage National Youth Violence Prevention Week for Louisville. So when you would see like that week in April and, they're talking about youth violence prevention, that was me trying to manage that from the year before, basically. So prior to that, I was actually at Spalding University doing student success. So looking at what are the root causes of students not doing well at colleges, right? And then I realized that it was bigger than college. It was more like what's happening in the city, right? So I kind of felt
you right there.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me stop you right there.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you find out? What was the cause?
Oh, why students weren't graduating college?
No, why weren't what am I trying to say about the violence? Why were our youth so involved?
Well, in violence? So my stepfather, because my dad is James Bennett, the photographer extraordinaire, right? He's taking pictures of everybody.
Yes.
An artist extraordinaire, etc. And he's been in the Louisville community his entire life. My uncle Clinton Bennett, he's been in the community for a really long time. But my stepfather was also Dr. Blaine Hudson. So he, a lot of folks know him for being the first Black dean of the arts and sciences at U of L, but he also did a lot of work with the violence. He was the chair of the violence prevention working group in 2012 after that triple homicide that happened in 2012 in May on Greenwood, right? Where they did the violence prevention work group. So I was a part of that. But once he passed away, I went on to grad school, did my own thing in higher education. But I came back to the mayor's office, and that office was actually a direct effect of the work he did with the violence prevention work group, because that was a recommendation. So what they looked at was a public health model for violence prevention. So we're looking at root causes of violence, which is, we know it's economic. We know it's food insecurity. We know it's all the insecurities, right? If you take the insecurities like food, housing, all the basic necessities of living, and like place those maps on top of each other, they all look the same. So people not having what they need. And, you basically take the things that people need away from them, the basic necessities, and lack of compassion, and we turn into people turn into criminals. Not we, people in general, like the human race turns into criminals in quotation marks, of course. So, so doing work around that, basically giving the young people that I managed a crash course in civics, and being able to articulate their needs to executive city leadership, that is the mayor, that is, any cabinet members around the mayor. And they did a lot. I mean, two of my young people went to my brother's keeper in Oakland in 2008, 19. And then two other young people also represented Louisville in the Conference of Mayors Youth Summit in 2019. So
do we have a My Brother's Keeper chapter here in Louisville?
We do. I don't work for the city anymore, so I can't speak for that anymore. But when I was there, My Brother's Keeper was
just in general, do we have?
Yeah, there's
that?
definitely some work that was being done around that. There was a report that was, generated every couple years, and different initiatives that we updated, folks on. I don't work for the city anymore, so I can't speak to that. So I don't want to be inaccurate there. But So we sent young people there as representatives. I mean, that was the conference that, Obama was at. Stephen Curry was. I mean, there was a lot of really big name folks there, and young people from our city represented there, and they were part of my youth council when I was at the city. So I kind of fell into diversity work because it was unofficially diversity work, because we know that race and class and all of these other things always intersect. So I wasn't officially, I've always been unofficially related to diversity and inclusion. I think I was raised in a diversity inclusion household before it had a name.
You were exposed to it. You were exposed to what it was.
I was a Saturday Academy kid, so
Oh, right, yeah,
yeah. So
I remember those Saturday Academies. Yeah.
So
wow,
that's how I kind of got into this work.
So where do you see? What are your end goals for let's just say this book discussion? When the book discussion is over, will you come up with some solutions? Will you come up with some directions for us to take or initiatives? How does that work when you finish the book discussion? What do you want to come out of it?
So that's a really good question. So my thing, the way I've always approached any solution-based and action-based initiative, period, whether I've been at U of L, the city, Spalding, anywhere I've ever been, I believe that the people closest to the problem are closest to the solution. So I don't have the solution. I mean, coming from higher ed and leaving higher ed and coming back, I realized that a lot of times folks are looking at the higher education institutions to have answers. And that runs into a lot of problems. I think that my job is to definitely ask challenging questions, right? Like if I have the privilege of having access to all this scholarship all the time, I'm supposed to be asking a lot of questions. That's my job. It's not supposed to be having answers. It's supposed to be asking a lot of questions. So my job really is to create space to have really good discussion with people I think who are already doing the work in some ways, and people who are interested in doing the work, providing shared definitions and space to really discuss once we have those shared definitions. And then we want substantive action. So what we're working on right now is providing at the end of this discussion, we really want folks to kind of workshop after they're done reading, and we have these shared understanding of the words that we're using. So we're all speaking the same language. We want folks to be able to workshop among each other, because everybody has something to add to this conversation. So I'm adding academics with business folks, with community folks, with whoever wants to be a part of this. They just have to apply, right? And they can be from wherever they are, and people workshopping solutions. And then we want to have folks who actually are really doing this anti-racism work, right? Actually in the business of developing anti-racism plans, workshopping with them, because they can ask even more challenging questions, because my job is to bring everybody together. We want substantive solutions on the back end. That's why it takes so long.
Okay. Well, wow. You said a mouthful.
I did.
It's so and I know you're not involved, but so this is open to the public. Is it open to the public? Okay. And so tell me, stepping away from that project, how do you, just as an individual, how do you view the progress or the direction of, doesn't necessarily have to be the direction, but Black Lives Matter? That what impact is it having an impact in our city? Is it finding a way to, fight the fight with, the protest is one part of it, but that's just the grunt work. The protest is the grunt work. After the protest, where do you think it should move from there? What would you say would be the next steps that where we move to as a community to try to get some resolution to some of our issues that we have?
What I usually say to everybody, because I have friends and family members and community members that are parts of all parts of it. This is a very complex issue, because the United States and Western culture in general it's baked in. Racism, all the isms are baked into culture, right? Like every facet of our culture, right? So obviously a complex problem has complex solutions. So, having worked in city government, having worked in higher education, being in a family that, has been committed to doing community work and supports the community work, I see the value in all of it. So, when I hear people like, whoa, people are just, they're protesting. I mean, protesting is what got the police defunded in Austin, right? There was enough noise happening around policing and the nature of policing to get it a third of the budget cut in Austin, Texas. Unfortunately, that didn't happen here, but definitely the noise that was happening here in Louisville supported, what happened in Texas, right? And we're all connected ultimately, right? So everything absolutely has a role. I think that every individual should do their best to figure out what their role is. You won't find me at a protest. I support my protest friends, my comrades out there in the streets, out in Justice Square every single day.
Single day.
That's not my lane, and I respect it, and I will feed whoever needs to go. I will watch somebody's kids, and I'll refer a good book.
You just have another. You've got another spoke in the wheel.
Absolutely, and I think that to make progress, people really just have to make sure they know that what they're doing is the work that they do best. And I think one of the things my stepdad used to always say, Dr. Hudson used to always say to me when I used to have all these ideas, when I, hadn't read as much, hadn't had as much life experience, is I'd like, oh, I have this idea. And you're thinking I'm the first person in the world who ever had this idea, because that's how we always think, right? Yeah. And he'd say, well, Nubia, what is everybody else doing around you? And if I couldn't answer the question, he would tell me that maybe you're not ready to make your move yet, because you really need to understand what other people around you are doing before you make your move. That's how you don't step on people's toes. That's how you maintain good relationships, because you understand what the people around you are doing. And that's how you make sure that your next move is your best move. So I think that people should take the time to read, if that's what they do, or really ask good questions around the people that are doing the work, and listen to the people that are really have been doing the work. And then figure out what they can add to that conversation or that action or whatever it may be. And that's how you make progress. I can't really say I know what I'm doing, because I know what I do best. But I think for progress, people just really have to do a much better job of listening to the people that have been in the streets or in these classrooms or wherever it is that they think they want to be. They need to be listening to folks that are doing the work. And then, figure out how they can add to that conversation.
It seems like that's one of the things maybe that as a whole, humanity as a whole probably needs to do is to listen more.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Because once I had some gentlemen tell me if I talked all the time, I would be right. So I had to stop and say, so what's he trying to say? So I had to check myself. Mm-hmm. So instead of me always trying to get my point across, and that comes along, that's growth in wisdom. When you grow older, you learn that listening is just a bigger part of a conversation as the speaker. Absolutely. The one that has so much to say. Sometimes that person that's over there listening to you, they say they got this, all right, you're good there. But then sometimes they could be saying, this child just don't have a clue. But wow, it's very interesting to hear you speak. You have a lot of energy, and I love energetic young people, because I'm still learning, and I have you on because I wanted to find out what you, when I saw that article and I said, oh, this is Nubia. And I started reading, I said, she's doing this. Oh, she's got to be on the show. So I'm picking out, when I select my guest, I want voices that are necessary in this village that we live in, to some of the solutions, because guess who's coming to dinner, which is the name of this show. It's about finding solutions to racism. So I'm trying to cover all facets of our lives, from education to health disparities, to that bad air that we breathe in the West, to our education, and are we going back to that? Are the kids going to be able to go back to the schools in their neighborhoods?
And they be good, of course. We want them to go back to schools in their neighborhoods, and those schools be good, not just in their neighborhoods.
Well, I've been looking at the whole thing over at Shawnee, because I'm your dad, and did your dad go to Shawnee too?
He did. Okay. He did. He graduated 66.
Now, we actually, we grew up across the street from each other on Cecil.
Did you? Oh.
Yes.
He was so excited. He was like, you have to get on the show. She called
me. They're doing the thing that the third floor of the school has been closed for 16 years. And now they have a new principal, Miss Rice, and she was
my 8th grade. She was my 8th grade math teacher at Newburgh.
Get out of here. Oh, she's all that.
And she was
I'm just so excited.
She was the dance team coach when I was in middle school. She was the dance team coach when I was in middle school in the 90s.
Oh, wow.
In the
Well, I'm
90s.
going to tell you, I can't wait to see um, all that she's doing for the school. Because when I think about schools, and I subbed at Shawnee one day a few years
Mhm.
ago, and the kids were embarrassed to go to that school. And I'm saying, I
Mhm.
said, let's shut the door. I said, so tell me why you all are embarrassed to go to Shawnee. Shawnee was all that when I went to school. And so they started talking about it.
Uh-huh.
And it just hurt me to my heart because there are
Mhm.
only about maybe 500 to 600 kids that go to that school. When I went to Shawnee, it was 1,500.
Mhm.
That's why we used all three floors.
Mhm.
So I'm excited to see because actually what was
Okay.
happening, no one that lived within a mile to a 2 mile radius in the West could go to that school. They are
Mm.
all bussed out.
Mhm. Most of the kids, because my dad actually still lives in what would be, if it were neighborhood schools, it would obviously be the home school. My little brother
Right.
actually went there for a year when we were kids. But all the kids that lived in our neighborhood, in my dad's neighborhood, either went to Doss, they went to Valley,
They were
or
bussed
they
out.
went to PRP, I believe. I
Yeah.
know Dawson Valley for sure, which if you think about, where Shawnee High School is, and if you live in that neighborhood and think about how far it is to go to Valley or how far it is to go to Doss, like
Right.
both of those schools are like,
Crazy.
I didn't even know where
Crazy
Doss
far.
was until I was an adult because I knew it was far. That's all I knew. It was far. So.
So tell me, Nubia, we're going to get the link, but I just while we're on, just tell the audience what the link is, where they can go find out more about the book conversation.
So if they're on Facebook, because I know you said you're streaming live on Facebook, if they look up U of L diversity the Office for Diversity Education and Inclusive Excellence, there's a post that has the link in it, and I'm gonna get it. I didn't want it to mess up, you know,
Right.
me seeing you. So,
And I don't know
but I'll
exactly how
definitely
I'm
share
going to
that
put
at
it up
the
here, but
end.
I'm going to put it up here some kind of way.
I can send it to you. I'll send it to you. Um, so they can go there and it's there. I'll send it to you real quick. But so that's one place they can go. It's also, let me see, can they go to the website? That's probably the best place they can go. And I'm also
Okay.
going to make sure you
Okay.
get it by the end of today. And I'm going to try to send it to you right
So
now.
COVID has made you have to be very creative.
Yeah. COVID's made all of us very creative in a lot of
Oh,
ways,
honey.
right?
Yeah, it's like,
For
okay,
sure.
I
For
need
sure.
people to know about this. So how do I reach them? Yeah. And
Yes.
social
Yes.
media, even though it has its naysayers, but it's
Mhm.
playing a very important role in our lives,
Mhm.
especially at this moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, it is. But so we're assuming that a lot of this will be virtual. If folks don't necessarily, I would encourage folks to apply for the book discussion project though. Because I mean, I like free books. I don't know if other people like free stuff, but I love free books more than anything because, I spend a lot of money on books personally.
Okay.
Um, I do. So I actually really like it when, books are free. So U of L is actually folks who apply for the book discussion project will actually I sent it to your
They'll get the
email.
book.
They'll get the book for free. Yeah. So you can sign up
Okay.
for that. But if people can't
Okay.
commit to because it's like a twice monthly like meeting, an hour or two twice a month. If that's too much, because COVID, work, life, and there's going to be some
But those
outside work.
2 hours might be a little easier to find now
That's
than
true.
before.
It starts, so it will start in December.
Okay.
And people will get their books in December, and then in probably January through March, we'll be having conversations about the books, and then we'll really start talking more about what our own anti-racism plans are. And I sent you the link in the visual so you can share with everyone else
Okay.
via email. So that's what we'll be doing then. But there will, in conjunction with that, there will also be a series of community conversations. And in honor of my stepdad and the work that he had done with Saturday Academy, we're actually looking to do something kind of similar. I'm
Kind of
definitely
similar.
not
I was
taking
going to
the
say, it
man.
sounds like you need to bring Saturday Academy,
I
Saturday
don't know that
Academies.
I have the power to do that. I don't know if I'm high enough on the food chain to do that, but I will say that,
But you can organize it.
I'm working on it. I'm definitely doing the
Okay.
best I
Okay.
can.
If
But
there's anything I can do to be of help to you, because I
thank you.
know that was a and a lot of times they were I know they had a lot of things. They were doing a lot of the work over at the Yearlings Club. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
after he passed away, there was some, there were some attempts to like revive it there. I mean, because there was some programming that was happening there at the same time and after he passed away. But
Right.
but just because it's the nature and that's the natural feeling that I'm used to, right? Like that
Yeah.
was just the way that information was shared. And I think it serves to be an equalizer, because especially because this program is coming from a university, with what we know about programming coming from universities. It can sometimes feel like it's coming very top down because folks have been researched things all their lives. But what I learned from participating in the Saturday Academy, growing up in the Saturday Academy, because it ran for 21 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 1993 to 2000. Well, 1992, I believe, to 2003-ish, at least. It may be longer than that, but it ran for 20 to 21 years. And I mean, what was really cool is that the playing field was leveled, in the sense that, of course, Dr. Hudson would, come in and talk about history, because that's what he knows, and that's what
Right.
that's what he did. But like the idea that somebody who has done just deep research in the community and done deep work in the community, like Mama Rhonda Mathis. I call her Mama Rhonda because she's been, she's that other mama, right?
That's
And
who was
Elma
supposed to
Lucille.
be on with me Wednesday night, and we couldn't get on.
Really? Oh, I just love her so
Yes,
much.
but
But
she's
like
coming back on.
all of these folks who have been really, and folks from the Carl Braden and Braden, like all of those folks have, played
Warriors, honey.
important
Warriors.
role in the city, right? They come in, and just community folks that just care about their community. You come into these spaces and you have something to add to the space. And to me, is probably the most important, because I think part of the reason we lack progress in a lot of ways is we don't give credence to folks that maybe they don't have a bunch of random letters, behind their names, but that's not the gauge of how much people know. That's not the gauge of how much they can contribute. So I think that, so in addition, all that to say, in addition to the cohort style portion of this book discussion, we are also going to be doing a series of community conversations that are action focused. So folks, get the folks that have the deep learning in these different areas, because it's still based on the book. So we're going to be looking at the different, areas that, Dr. Kendi talks about, as it relates to anti-racism. But like, it's not a book talk. It's a conversation with folks that are already doing the work, because to assume that people aren't already doing work is not progress, because there is work being done every day, right? By everybody.
Right.
So.
I hear you. Well, I'm going to tell you, this was such a refreshing conversation. And that's what this show is about. The same thing you're saying is people from all walks of life. They have something, their voices need to be heard. Your
Absolutely.
voice needs to be heard, so they can say, Nubia's over there, she's doing her thing. And she's putting this together, and somebody is interested. And somebody needs a place where they can find like minds. Find like minds that are, they're doing the work, but they're trying to find a place where they can influence some of the work that's being done.
Absolutely.
That's what old schoolers do. We try to be influencers. I mean, I think about these kids on Facebook, they're influencers. I said, but we're influencers too. Because we
Absolutely.
just have lived a longer life.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank you for coming on, and I'm going to
Thank you, guys.
let the audience know that when they go to Jantastic Productions, this is for you as well, on Facebook and or YouTube. In the description, I'll put the link where they can go. They can go find out more about participating in the book project conversation, and let their voices be heard.
Absolutely.
And not just take up space, fill up the space.
And give us the solutions. Give us we want to have conversation about the work and not just from the top down, because everybody has something to contribute to this. Absolutely.
From the frontline warriors.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, Miss Nubia Bennett, I want to thank you so much, darling. And if you hang out for a minute, then you and I can wrap up our conversation. But I'm going to close out the show and tell them a few things, and then I'll be right back.
Okay.
Oops, I did it again. There we go. Wow. What an interesting young lady. What an interesting job. What an interesting mindset she has. And exposure that she's had growing up has led her in this direction. That's really exciting to see. She comes from, as they would say, good stock. Everybody don't come from good stock, but everybody comes from somewhere, and they've got something to contribute. So our conversation tonight with Miss Nubia Bennett was all that. And so tonight's show, we're ending out the week. This is the end of 1 month that we've been doing Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. And I just want to say for everyone, the different platforms where you can see this show, tell your friends about it, share it, follow us, like us, whatever. Because in January of 2021, we are slated to be launched on Wave TV on Saturday nights at 7 o'clock. But it'll be a 1-hour show, and we'll really be having dinner, the conversation we had over dinner. So I need to get my audience. I need you to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell a friend to watch Guess Who's Coming to Dinner on Jantastic Productions channels on Facebook, YouTube, and our own Roku channel, Jantastic Productions. You just have to download it on your TV if you got a smart TV or a Roku TV or a Roku stick. Jantastic Productions. So, with that being said, have a good weekend. Keep your mask on. Be patient. Put the champagne on ice, because we're going to know some results shortly. They're wearing me out with this waiting. But I think the Lord has heard from all the prayer warriors out there praying that this day would come and can be over and we can start to heal. So Louisville, from me to you, bon appetit. Guess who's coming to dinner?